July 28th, 2026. The ongoing discussion regarding surviving spiritual warfare while car camping in a environment that's not my natural place that I'm from, or natural homeland, which is Oregon. But then again, I'm also divided blood-wise from my own people, of course. And so that story continues to be told. Coming back from Crestone, being in Salida, recovering from spiritual warfare after the attack, essentially bringing a knife to a gunfight when I am invoking. That video is not on YouTube. You would have to go to coloradodreaming.substack.com to watch that video. It's not on YouTube. There's a lot of copyrighted content, and some videos take a long time to upload to YouTube, where it's easier on Substack. Again, plus there's copyright. And so I'm overcoming the sickness. My cat hasn't been around me in 24 hours. So there's some energy loss there. And then there was the unnecessary confrontation with the witch. And I've been processing this since then, this attack. And it's actually quite sad. Anyway, I'm here in Salida. It's raining. And I'm having to process this on my own. So I'm processing this on my own. I'm at McDonald's. I was at the library earlier. And then I was at the river earlier. And I'm trying to think where else. I also spent some time at a metaphysical shop. And I got these bracelets repaired. But it was sort of, and I got this put together, and I've been carrying this turquoise around for a while. So this is a combination of turquoise and adventuring. And then I'm trying to burn the dragon's blood more often. And then I haven't drank for 3 days. So those are some, not all, but some, and then doing a lot of prayer, things that I'm doing regarding spiritual protection, and then using my intuition and not going to certain campsites, and not going around certain people. And there's just certain things that I'm not doing on the internet. So I'm going to continue to follow my intuition, the places that I go. Sedona is in my future. I think there's a couple subscribers now. One is Gypsy, and then one is another that I've been watching here and there. And he's in Arizona. So I'd be happy to get your help regarding Arizona and some places that I might want to look into. Now, I have some females that are on my newsletter that are from Sedona, and they're watching what's taking place, and they're opening up the links, but just because people are opening up the links doesn't mean that they're actually going to care about what's taking place and or side with me. And so for those who just now joined us, just an overview, and I'm getting better at talking about this as I get further away from the incident. There was a woman who was giving psychic readings at the park in Crestone, Colorado, okay, who heard what I had to say in a particular video about the nature of a lot of things. Isn't uploaded here, but you can see it at the Substack page, coloradodreaming.substack.com. So she knew the nature of what I stood for, at least. But then again, people hear things, or they don't listen at all. They have the Bluetooth in. But she was within proximity. And later on, she was reading somebody who flipped out on me and came at me with the camera. And then all I was doing was actually telling some people, some youngins, to go away. To mind their own business. And then I came under attack. And then I told them also, when they were leaving, that I am concerned that in the future, that they might do such and such when they get their hands on such and such. And they turned it around like I was threatening them with such and such. And that's how they reported to the Swatch County Police Department. Then I had to deal with a meathead, probably takes steroids, probably hates certain people, who's telling me he's going to treat me like a threat till he can prove that I'm not. Okay, and nothing gets through to these meatheads, whether good cop or bad cop. There is no difference. There is no good cop when you're dealing with modern cops if they don't want to talk about solar flares and be open to their, job capability being upgraded. Because if you learn about the solar flare influence over crime rates, you can be a better cop, you can be a better police chief, you can be a better, more confident mental health advisor, so on and so forth. Maybe even a better bartender, because you'll realize that during solar flares and geomagnetic storms, they're drinking to excess. Because the way the solar flares are affecting metabolism, circadian rhythm, affecting insomnia, we have entered into the next dimension of idiocracy. Welcome to Idiocracy Part 2. We'll continue our discussion here. And so, it's like that Mad TV sitcom, Lowered Expectations, to survive this Mad Max reality because we've already entered into the prison planet. We're already in the prison planet. We're already living by rules prisoners live by, even though we're supposedly free. Thus, once you learn how things work on Earth, you're then safeguarded from the sneak attack, from the sucker punch attack, from the scumbag coming across the corner with brass knuckles because you have what? Because you have what? Because you have what? Intuition. With intuition, you have such a clear head that you can see the predator coming so you can get up into safety, into the cave, or whatever the case may be. Now, if you think that I'm going to continue on YouTube revealing to you all of my genius epiphanies, you would be wrong because I've now come to learn that certain things you keep under wraps. And so let's say you discover a great thing, a great cave, a great awakening, a great option, a great escape. And then you've developed the experience that every time you spill the beans on social media, somebody tries to interfere with it. At some point, you use your abilities to keep something in your back pocket that's just for you. And in this case, and I want to tell the story without telling the full story, then I'll get up and buy my meal. The energy in McDonald's, believe it or not, is better than the library. It's more, quote, inclusive in stuff. You can even say it's more woke. The point is, I come here to get away from that fake, pretentious, we're so loving, LGBT for everybody reality that you deal with when you're in the library. There's something about the library, here, there, everywhere, including a certain librarian who is my friend at what point. You got to be careful with these people who make too much money when they're standing around doing nothing. When real people have to work for a living, like these McDonald's people, for example, they have to work for a living. They have to work hard. But who thinks to tip the McDonald's worker? Nobody. Nobody thinks because we're in a culture where they control, through mind control, who makes a certain amount of money and then who basically eats out of a dumpster. So keep that in mind when you judge a book by its cover. And who judges a book by its cover? Everybody who takes my card and throws it in the garbage. That's who. Moving along now. And so you need to understand if you were in prison, you would need to know the rules of prison if you were to survive the yard. Thus, you have a lot of people on Earth not knowing what Earth is that are succumbing to all types of unfortunate circumstances. And what did we learn recently from that whole situation in Crestone? By the way, this is a new book that I stole. Just kidding. Found, reappropriated, borrowed from people that would just in the end throw it in the free pile. It's called The Unseen Presence, Rescued from Darkness. And of course, you see what got my eye. It's the Northern Borealis. It's the Northern Lights, now at a 500-year high, which is what? The geometric storm contains Akashic records. The geometric storms contain spiritual information. But we also have warfare when we have geometric storms. I'm going to build up a big appetite and then put on 10 pounds with some McDonald's food. I'm kidding. I just burn it up. But it says right here, in the unseen presence, you will meet Mel Goebel, who encountered a powerful presence he did not know existed. By responding to this presence, he experienced freedom into a life he could never have imagined. Lifelaunch.org. So I got my journal here, my second journal, because the other journal I lost somewhere in Alamosa, but I'm convinced someone with blue hair picked it up, looked at it, threw up, threw it away. So that's compost now. We'll have to just attach it to my hip next time. Alamosa or Salida? Which one do I go to escape Crestone? Fake Love and Light Salida or just down and gritty, just let it hang out there and flip somebody off Alamosa? A very divided Hispanic white population. A wonderful place for someone who doesn't really identify with either to go into to start spreading light. So I guess when people talk about spiritual warfare, they're all going to have their own experiences, and not everybody's going to want to spill the beans. But I can see examples of it in Crestone, the way the people attack each other through the clicks, for example. So you have the Cloud Station, you have the Tea Shop, you have Crestone Mercantile, you have Crestonian Bliss, and then you have the shadow government that rules them all from, I'm joking, but am I? And so it's something to think about. So part of the spiritual protection today is reconnecting with the river, crystals, going from Salida to Crestone. My cat took off. So that's been a contributor to a panic state, you know. So, but knowing the cat and how the cat is, probably give it about 72 hours or so before heading back, basically to no man's land. But once I do, then I'm going to try to start practicing being in the forest for longer periods of time. 4 days and 40 nights. Don't know if I'll make it that long, but I know that I've done that in the desert, literally in Costilla County, in the winter, without heat. More than 40 days and 40 nights. But without getting online, without getting on Facebook, without going to Pornhub, I mean, without going to town, without calling someone, see, that's different. A true, I'm kidding, Pornhub sucks. A true conscious 40 days and 40 nights for the modern day would be no cell phone, no internet, fasting, no McDonald's, eating quinoa, eating rice, reading books, journaling, podcasting, and spending little to no time on YouTube, spending little to no time around Wi Fi or 5G. Now ask yourselves, how many places does that sound like on the earth? A place there is no 5G and Wi Fi. And why would you want to be somewhere where there is no Wi Fi for a truly sacred experience? Because Wi Fi is a surveillance tool who knows exactly who you are now. Surprise! Ready to have some kids and thrust them into the metallic box? So, yes, Wi Fi is a surveillance tool, and that which can surveil you can affect your energy, even target you. Oh my. And there are many satellites in Crestone that are observing reality there. Maybe it's just the whole Earth. Who knows what's going on? No one seems to know what's going on in Crestone that I talk to. It's just one version of a idiocracy sequel to another, with a lot of paranoia in the middle about what's going on, and not a whole lot of unity amongst the people. There's a lot of fake fronting still, in particular, about Sufism, along with appropriating yoga and whatnot, and basically leaving us and my ancestors holding a bag with poop in it. But back to Crestone, they're all about, oh, all the world's religions and faiths. And then you get there and you're like, I, I don't see nothing. It's like that villain from Dances with Wolves when Costner's being beat up after he's been captured. Don't see nothing. Well, I've gone to Crestone and I don't see that manifestation. Um, I don't see that connection. I saw a lot of tribalism where, and I'll continue, observe group dynamics if you're a loner. And then observe as a loner how you might, he's like, hell no, I ain't listening to this shit. Observe the group dynamics of the cool kids in the group of 8, 9, and 10. And then also observe how, like, it might start out with a couple conscious members, and then some other people who really shouldn't be with my friend will come in and they'll still steer the direction. And it's almost like a psychic can look and go, okay, now the energy and the purpose of that group of eight's going to change. And they're just like a bunch of like weak people that are like holding on to each other, which is, see, and this is why I don't give out my Substack to the people that I'm around up there. Because that's what it is. You have a bunch of people that are career alcoholics, let's just speak the truth, that are holding on to each other's energy because they're not strong enough to stand alone. Now, it's good to have, group and safety for camping, but when your campers are pulling you down and their conversations don't go anywhere and everything is about inebriation, then your own aura can be affected, as they say, by the dumbest person in the group. So, dumbest person in the group, most alcoholic. I normally don't drink 5 days in a row. All of a sudden, drink 5 days in a row. Not that I'm bragging, but maybe I am. Sometimes up to 10 beers. What's going on? Can we just say that it's solar flares? If you're in a group dynamic where that's going on, then you have to consider that and your environment and your home space. All right. All right. So I'll be kind of polite with the people that are here, but I kind of have some really intense commentary coming, loaded with you statements, shouting from the mountaintop, and a place free from police. I'm actually going to hit pause here and start watching some videos and continue narrating here and there because it keeps me out of trouble. It keeps me from going too far. But I have another story that I'm going to talk about later about going into the local metaphysical store and then doing a little mind telepathy of the person that works there. And then getting an idea that by talking about certain things, she can pretend to be compassionate. She can pretend to go, "Aw, aw, aw." And then I realized that that is a front, that she's with them the entire time. She's just not revealing it yet because she wants me in that space. Until, of course, I begin to wake up to it, realize it, and then I'll get that question: is something wrong? No, no, nothing's wrong. I'll see you later. And I know something's wrong. That's not the business for me to hang out in. And it's bad for me and my aura to be in a business like that, which has another agenda and has another allegiance. And they can pretend to be all love and light. No, we love everybody. No, totally, dude. But in the end, she's like conscious of the fact she's not going to see this because at all the times I gave her the YouTube channel, she, like everybody else, refuses to show up, judging a book by its cover. But here's another thing. Then they'll also go and they'll play this game going, check this out. Oh, don't you say that. That's going to happen because you might make that happen. Well, that's interesting. So you're into the military, right? Oh, yeah, we love the military. We support the troops. Oh, got it, got it. So let's talk about your belief and support the troops and this radical law of attraction. Let's do everything with your mind. Now, I'm trying to show you an incompatibility in belief systems. You understand? Okay, you're saying if we don't do this, and this, terrorists are going to get us. Does that sound like a good use of the law of attraction? Somehow or another, and I'll leave it at this. I can sit there and give a kind talk to somebody and go, you know what? This stuff's not always spiritual. Sometimes it feels like it's just witchcraft and like a war of the energies and a war of the wills and a war of the minds and everything without Jesus and everything without God and everything out without morality. And so you can say that I came up in the school of hard knocks, living with my mother, living in the Pacific Northwest, living in Portland, speaking of Portland, exchanging energy with Portland by being on cable access TV for 15 years, being the main point man for the warning about the future before the witch doctor known as Clyde Lewis took reins of whatever station he's on now. But I got a good opportunity growing up in the Pacific Northwest, place of a lot of drinking, place of a lot of drugs, place of a lot of perceived sexual freedom with prostitution, sex work, sex clubs, and strip clubs. But in the end, you see the fruits of that toxic labor. And what is it? I mean, really? And then so you look at the modern Portland, you have a lot of people that are do nothings that are basically taking up space in my city that have actually replaced me in this trickster holographic universe practical joke, that which we call God, thrust me in. People are hallucinating that I'm an outsider when I'm the one who's been pushed actually from place to place to place from this economic breakdown that's been going on for a long, long time. From California into Portland, from New York into Portland, from England and Europe into Portland. Portland has been inundated with SEX demons. And so thus, you're going to have these stories. We'll talk more about it in detail another time, where a female gets pulled over by fake ICE agents that assault her for 15 minutes and then are text messaging her in the hospital. Of course, using probably data that could have been given to them. So, of course, there's going to be dark side agents of the government working with human traffickers that leak info. Hang on, I'm going to go buy my burger here. We're going to hit pause here. And then I'll experiment with different environments. We'll do podcasts. It sounds different, different environments. It actually feels different, different environments. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with people that are status worshippers, I've been attacked and slandered when I was doing podcasts when I was in the Dallas area from any fast food joint. It just doesn't look impressive, but it's actually the reality of the situation. And that's another podcast, but no, it's not. It is this podcast. Most people that are traveling stay in some sort of mindset, which is not something that, like here, which is not something that I associate with, which is to do nothing and drink alcohol and to hang out with bad men and bad women, excuse me, males. And that's a good example of, and what I am is a complete novelty, doesn't exist. I don't see my brothers and sisters out. Oh, sure, there's some hot chicks that are like YouTubing in their car, claiming they're a chosen one or something. That's completely different than someone who actually has 20 years experience. Thank you. Making psychic predictions, interviewing famous people, interviewing Alex Jones, even though he's a scumbag now, interviewing David Icke. There was nobody at my level of intelligence or productivity that I know of that's out there making videos. And what, again, we'll just be brief and keep running and screaming. I'm of the DNA code they're going to wipe out and are wiping out. and they're not, and that's what's going on. The machine, the computer goes, he's one of them that we in the Galactic Federation of Light are exterminating. And it'll tell these people over and over. In the 90s, I had dreams about them rounding me and people up and throwing us out in the ocean, having us eaten by sharks. Don't tell me this is mental illness when we see what they're doing to those people in Europe after they destroyed their homeland. So, what it is I've told everybody this stuff was coming. And in recent years, with Trump in power, they still don't care. And they're still screaming, we're inclusive, we love everybody. This level of hypnosis, fakeness is next level. I really thought I could rationalize with people. I really thought I can get through to them. But in the end, it's a genetic program where the DNA strands are not complete enough to have full compassion. So, in that sense, the human species is splitting between those with compassion and those without compassion, ultimately. And that's where the robots come in. Anyways, I've done a lot of videos in McDonald's. So right now it's a new channel at Colorado Dreaming. We've got two van campers that are watching, both male. And I'm going to start for spiritual protection. I'm going to start a blog called the DallasSunExpress.substack.com, where my specific theories about Dallas being a future capital where they rule the world of the country with an iron fist, and those ideas that I have. Ironically, RoboCop, set in Detroit, was filmed in Dallas. While living there, I can really absorb what's going on with the people, and then start thinking about things and then seeing it manifest in the news. And I'm definitely not creating it. And so when the rise in increased human trafficking was happening, threats to women's safety, there were a lot of alarm bells going off in my DNA, while the people around me are going, what's wrong with you? Why do you care? And then I saw everything that I warned about start to manifest in Mesquite, in Box Springs. More stories would appear about police involved in prostitution rings and judges and pastors. And it became clear to me that whatever crusade I was on to like get communities together to start exposing the causes and conditions behind human trafficking, I came to find out that it just got me in trouble. I came to find out that I was getting in trouble. I came to find out that, everywhere I would go and I would talk about that specific issue and social apathy, something demonic would happen. The police would show up. I'd have to sign a paper and I'd be 86th. And there would be no rational reason for them to respond to somebody doing that unless they're involved themselves. That also includes LGBT and the blue haired crowd and the yellow haired crowd and all that. When you're just dealing with lustful people, you're not dealing with people that want to save the kids. You're dealing with people that want to eat the kids, folks. Okay? And that's what we're dealing with. That's the future of America after we're gone, after they get rid of us. That's my prediction. There'll be cannibals that go to overseas with jetpacks and they'll emulate what's in the pornography and video games. And they'll just jump down these kids from space and just drink the blood. How would I know this? It's all in the video games. They're emulating everything in these adult cinema. And all the adult cinema is now about chasing humans into extinction. For people that are intelligent, they know that. For people that are not intelligent, like, what? Like in 2020 when COVID happened, all that alien human lovemaking exploded. And everybody's like, this is awesome. And like, why do you? And so that's what we're dealing with the spiritual warfare. I'm going real fast here because I can see it in Crestone and MoFat and the dispensaries in Salida and also the Ground Zero show with Clyde Lewis, my former friend who's linked in with Alex Jones of InfoWars, who of course is linked in with Trump, who himself is obviously linked in with the New Age movement agenda to cleanse the earth. So you will see that I'm not venerating spiritual masters, but what? The gray alien head. It's dad. It's grandpa. They'll be like this instinctual, I want to believe they're good. Interesting. Tell us more, Mom. Mom, tell us more about how we're going to venerate them all throughout the 1980s, but like the whole New Age movement. We're just being accountable here. Not take accountability when the 2H predictions don't come true, and the 2012 predictions don't come true. And I think there are some people trying to push the idea that we were going to be saved by the aliens in 2025. And they'll just naturally go with psychosis and schizophrenia. They'll just flow with it like the direction of a river. Now, why would that be? Could there be like a common ancestor from the past or in space who's like beaming instructions to them from like, a satellite somewhere? Maybe the Emperor from Star Wars? Yes, yes, kill them all and you will be kings and gods. You will rule, you will be gods. Well, might sound ridiculous, but I'm pretty convinced they've been told that they're gods or will become gods and that they're creatures. So you have gods and creatures just based on what? Labels? An AI system? You see, this is quite fun. And this podcast here in McDonald's goes kind of into an echo chamber where it almost causes a poltergeist situation where they start coming out from the kitchen going, what's happening here? Then I have to run up and buy my burger. Going, sir, you've been here 30 minutes. You have to buy something for every 30 minutes that you truth. And so you pay to truth. And sometimes I pay $5 to truth. Sometimes I'll tip $5 to truth. But if you're too nice and you tip $40 to truth in Sunnyvale, Texas, and you actually try to exemplify Jesus Christ, and they're actually like, Satanists with, just, then they'll call the police. And so what I learned the other day was that by being too nice at that park in Crestone and leaving while I was being targeted, they went on the hunt and they were exploiting my weakness. And I have to assume that drinking 5 beers in a day, drinking 5 days in a row, taking a plant supplement that somebody offered me, doing magic where I'm pushing out the dark element, and then allowing those kids to come up and trigger me, and then raising my voice, it opened up the door to the attack by allowing them to communicate with me. Uh, we'll come back to that one. So there might be certain situations where people bait people into conversations and arguments, and in some cases you want to use your intuition. But then again, if I drew something to me and I engaged in that with them, and my shields were weakened, then perhaps my force field was not strong enough, essentially. Um, yeah, all right. So here in Salida, I consider it's probably more, I don't know if it's more masculine or feminine, but it's possibly a different polarity than Crestone, but it's a similar overall energy in the heart of the Rockies, but not exact. So Crestone is heavy on that mountain energy with a lot of electromagnetic energy coming down at the baseline. And there is a video by a lady named Aurora, um, and she talks about, not that I'm promoting her work or where she works, she's part of that Crestone circle. And so, as a result of her being a part of that circle, even if she thinks she's really smart and she thinks she's really spiritual, she'll get an intuitive hit to not talk to me at all or follow up with the advice to give me info about the spiritual warfare in Crestone. Because if she's venerating the Galactic Federation of Light, if she is a gatekeeper, and a lot of them are when it comes to solar flares. They don't want to talk about the crime rates. They don't want to talk about the stuff that's really going on. They want to play up this enlightenment thing. And I'm like the guy who like crashes the party, who's like the buzzkill. And it's like, oh really? That happens too? Oh man, no, you're definitely not going to the conference. They'll see me as one of those to push out. And in Crestone, they have like an ideology or a statement where they say that if you're not willing to grow with the mountain will push you out. Come on, man. People can actually push people out. They can stare at them. They can steal their stuff. Um, so there was an analogy that I came up to as real brilliant for New Agers stuck in the law of attraction that aren't grounded in the physics of reality. For example, let's say someone says everything is all about powers of the mind and you don't want to say anything negative because it might manifest. Well, that's interesting. So we're on the phone, right? And let's say somebody needs me to send them some money instantly via Cash App because they're out of gas. I should tell them, you need to be positive. You're being too negative. If, you need to focus right now and meditate that you're going to drive forever without money. You don't need to work, just power of thought. You don't need to be grounded, just be positive. No, you do not need to entertain the outcome that if you keep driving without putting gas in your car, that your car is going to go out. Now, does this make sense to you? Does it sound grounded? It sounds insane. To me, it sounds insane when they're saying, wait a minute, bro, you can't say that in the future this could happen to you because you can make it happen. Did the Jews in Nazi Germany put themselves in the gas chambers for having negative thoughts? And so now you understand. Humanitarians that help people never deal with the law of attraction, hocus pocus. And law of attraction folks never jump into humanitarianism. They blame them for their actions. My mother said when I was assaulted by black people as a child, you deserve it, it's your karma. Somehow that ideology took her from morality to immorality and became a knowing participant in the physical and spiritual assaults, and then becoming an assailant herself. In fact, the original architect, my mother, of the abuse. But just bringing me in as a super psychic mutant and then abusing me with the rest of society, you target that which you created. So yeah, this world is a science fiction experiment where people like experiment on their babies and stuff in the 1970s and the 1980s, and they create these forms of diversity. And once they're made super psychic, they throw them overseas and nuke them in 2015 in Iraq. And that's what I foresee. A big social experiment where we had a racial melting pot where people have the freedom to have anybody. Then they one day say 1 in 3 Americans are literally going to get taken out. It's like, wait a minute, there's not that many foreigners. To do that, they're going to change the government and go after people's kids. And so what you have right now are people that are okay with that. What you have right now all around me are people that are okay with that. And what they do is they send out a smoke signal to God going, do not protect us during the end times. Because we said we were okay with the innocents being turned into mulch. And we didn't say don't hurt those people. We didn't believe in helping people directly. And that's the reality that people have forgotten. They're government fuckers, worshippers, excuse the French. They're giant fuckers. Nephilim, Anunnaki, same thing. The system, the Illuminati, the big guys, the entities, the masters of the universe. What we have here are submissives with ball and gag on both sides of the left and right, with nobody bucking the assailant, the assault, and holding dad accountable if dad was the original one that created the abuse. What we have is a Wizard of Oz situation where social media is doing the unthinkable. Thank you for listening. We're 32 minutes into this, which is the average time of a lot of these focused rants. But unfortunately, in the human world, it's not really manifesting, but it's going out in the ether. It's going out on the internet. It's going on Colorado Dreams or Colorado Dreaming on YouTube. And then at some point, I would try to get people to come to the website without talking to them too much through business cards and flyers and vandalism. On the billboard, I'm just kidding. Um, and of course, there's a lot of video content where I mix heavy metal and different magical affirmations and do martial arts and stuff. All that's over at coloradodreaming.substack.com.